Happy New Year! Wait, isn't this how I started last year's video? Welcome, ladies and gents, to my second annual ranking of every movie of the year video. Last year was the year 2022, and now it's 2023. I also want to make them because they're one of the few videos that have surpassed 1,000 views that I'm actually proud of, so yeah, that's a contributing factor. Meaning I'll probably do one for 2024 as well. This year I didn't force myself to watch a lot more movies than I needed to, only what intrigued me and or was excited for. So expect some of my rankings to be on the more positive side, but that doesn't mean there weren't a few stinkers this year, or movies I feel indifferent towards. This year was an interesting one for cinema. We all watched the summer blockbusters come to an end with horrible performances. 2023 was also Disney's 100th anniversary, which proceeded to be one of their worst years at the box office. It just felt like there was a decline of interest for all these big budget movies. I'm sure there's a lot of factors when it comes to poor ticket sales. People don't want to spend a lot of money on a movie when they need to pay for the luxury items, like food and water. I'm lucky enough to be able to go to the theater when I want, but I know some are just not as fortunate, so probably a contributor. But it's not all doom and gloom. There was some surprising successes this year, including showing big companies you don't need $1 gazillion to make a movie, but we'll get into that. Oh hey Orbit, you come to join me for this video? Dude, can't you see I already started filming? Fine, what is this movie? Really? What is it? Whoever created this movie, I hate you. I hope you fall down a pit. But God, you're a genius. Now, why would I call the person who created this actual Walmart bargain bin garbage, absolute piece of crap movie a genius? Well, they only spent $100,000 to make it, and it made a total of $1.5 million. Why did anyone go watch this movie? Probably out of morbid curiosity like me. I was not ready for what I was about to witness. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is so bad! Not surprising to anyone, I assure you. But I still need to express how bad it is. It brings every single horror trope into one god-awful slaughterfest. Everything it tries is stupid. The origin story in the beginning is stupid. The main girls are stupid. Pooh and Piglet are stupid. Hot dog water sounds more appealing than doing a second rewatch. Like, why does Pooh grind people up to add to his honey? Why does Pooh let Christopher Robin go at the end? Why didn't he just kill both of them? Are you sad that I spoiled this movie? Are you upset that the ending of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was spoiled for you? God, this movie is so bad. I'm done talking about this goofy ass movie. Let's just move on. By the way, Pooh and Piglet killed 2 lesbian girls, so let's cancel them. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't care. They'll probably just turn me into honey, but whatever. This movie is bonkers as all hell. And trust me, I love myself a bonkers kind of film. But this just falls flat on its face with everything it tries to do. This doesn't even feel like an Ant-Man movie. To be fair, I haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp because, well, I didn't care. I did see the first one and I liked it for the most part. This feels like a whole completely different world. Scott Lang, his daughter, Hope, and 2 other old people, I think are grandparents, I don't exactly remember, get transported to the quantum realm, and yeah, the movie halts to bring weird, wacky visuals with weird, wacky characters that I don't even remember the names of. I know I'm bringing up a lot, but you will forget 80% of this movie after you're done watching it. Kang is the most pathetic villain I've ever seen in a superhero movie. A literal Z-tier antagonist. I don't even fully understand what his motives were. Thanos was intimidating because his first proper introduction had him kill Loki in Infinity War. You know, this sets him up as someone we should fear. What does Kang do? He's a big meanie, a conqueror, oppress these people that we literally just got introduced to. Then by the end of the movie, he gets defeated by ants. literal insects. This is supposed to be the next big bad? This guy? You're pulling my leg here. I guess I did like the relationship between Scott and Cassie. It was kind of sweet. Oh yeah, and the ending. God damn it, the ending is so bad. It is basically Kang and Scott fist fighting until he's able to go into the portal back home. He makes no sacrifice, and we end up back at square one, and nothing gets accomplished, rendering the past 2 hours completely worthless. Great. I apologize to my mom and aunts, but this movie sucked. This year's soulless live-action Disney adaptation goes to The Little Mermaid, a movie I do enjoy a lot. But this remake has no life coursing through it. The only thing that gives this movie an ounce of charm is Haley Bailey as Ariel. I actually like her performance as Ariel a lot. It was really good, despite what Confederate Colin wants you to think. Actually, I don't hate most of the cast. I think they are serviceable at worst and nice additions at best. Well, obviously you can never replace Samuel Wright as the OG Sebastian. It's just such an iconic role, and I don't believe this new guy lives up to it. This is no fault on his part, but I don't like it. Most of the music is whatever, like the new song for Eric I think is pretty good, but most of the music is unchanged. Why is there a rap number in the middle of this movie? They casted Awkwafina as Scuttle and made her be as annoying as possible. And Awkwafina already has an annoying voice, so you don't even really need to try that hard. But boy, they sure surprised me! I actively walked out of the theater to go to the bathroom when I started hearing this musical masterpiece on screen. Eminem craps his bed every night thinking about this stupid rap song. God. Okay, well besides that, the movie is mostly alright with some weird looking CGI on the mermaids and merlads. I don't like looking at them. It would have been an out of 10 if it weren't for that annoying ass bird. Moving on. I don't remember a whole lot about Megan, if I'm gonna be honest. I watched it on Peacock when I had nothing better to do. It's just a really inoffensive, by-the-books horror movie with an interesting gimmick. None of the characters are memorable except for the titular Megan bot, which I guess is kind of creepy, but I've been completely desensitized to spooky robots at this point in my life. So other than the kind of cool concepts and kills in this movie, and some cool disturbing scenes with the Megan bot, or that stupid dance she does that's clearly trying to copy the other stupid Wednesday dance for TikTok clout, I didn't really get much out of this movie. I think this is the only movie I hated more on rewatch. This is the most boring, tedious, and kind of annoying film. You could have done so much with a fun adventure movie like the Indiana Jones franchise, but instead you made a movie where the main protagonist we loved through 4 films, old and miserable. I hate to break it to you, Disney, but it's not fun. In this movie, Jones actively expresses that he does not want to be part of this adventure, and honestly, I don't blame him. Any positives I have with this film can all be mostly attributed to the beginning scene where Jones does sick-ass parkour moves on a moving train, escaping a Nazi castle. That was fun. And now it's all downhill from there. The villain is another one of the things I guess I don't mind. I like his motivations, going back in time to replace Hitler so that Germany could win World War II. It's pretty cool. He himself is kind of boring, but I'm gonna take what I can get. Didn't like the other characters, didn't like the fact that they ruined the happy ending they left Indiana Jones with at the end of the Crystal Skull, and overall, I just felt like Harrison Ford by the end of this movie. Like I aged 16 years. I think that the concept this movie has is actually cool. Adam Driver plays an alien that... Actually, I'm struggling to remember why he went to planet Earth, but... Basically, he crashes on planet Earth in the year 65 million BC. The only other survivor being this other alien girl who doesn't speak the same language as him. And now they must reach the escape pod on top of the mountain while avoiding becoming a meal for the wildlife of Earth, aka dinosaurs. It's a dinosaur movie. But like I said, it has a very unique concept. They should have rolled with it more. Make it scarier, make it more tense. He could die at any second. There's a couple of decent scenes with dinosaurs, and the characters are alright, but not a lot to say, just plain and whatever. This movie is a good example of something completely unoriginal. It's such a plain and safe film that honestly it's kind of infuriating. This is the movie you chose to follow up The Last Wish, DreamWorks? This one? I didn't see Trolls 3, but I'm just gonna assume I would not like it, so DreamWorks, you better not disappoint with Kung Fu Panda 4. Or else! So Ruby Gillman, it's a movie. Nothing here is bad, but nothing here is all that spectacular. It was probably made as a play on the Little Mermaid story, since this came out around the same time that the live-action version did. And hey, I gotta give them props. This is more original than that movie. Inoffensive and okay. Some of the characters are charming, I guess. The animation is basic, but has some character to it. Nothing really else to say, it's just kind of boring. From one studio to the next, Elemental is here at the 23rd spot. I think I just wasn't really a fan of most of the mainstream animated movies this year. I mean, I didn't hate Elemental, but I don't really feel like ever coming back to this movie ever again. Things I do believe deserve praise are the animation. It's really good. Apparently this was the hardest movie Pixar ever had to animate, and you know what? I could tell. Big props to the water animation too. The characters as well were at best likable, like the two main characters, the bizarre versions of Fireboy and Water Girl. At worst, they're just annoying. I don't think I hated anyone in this movie, but my problem with this movie is just that nothing is original. Every idea or plotline in this movie is something you've heard before. The romance is just a Romeo and Juliet story where they like each other, but none of their family wants them to get together because they're different. Ooh. They also mentioned that the fire people are like immigrants to this element city and they're forced to reside in this one section. So it's also a racism story? Kinda? They don't really do a whole lot with it besides a couple of references to it. And if it's not about the weird metaphors or characters, it's just boring. Again, the biggest positive is the two main characters that I liked. Unrelated to the review, but the god-awful marketing just had lasting effects on me. No one can escape Claude. Not even you. Unlike Elemental, this movie's marketing wasn't bad. Because it was non-existent. Since it was released in the midst of the writers and actors strike, so there couldn't be any promotion from the actors. Which is probably why I didn't even know this movie was happening until like a month before it was released. And odds are, you didn't either. Okay, the actual movie. I think the plot it has is actually pretty good. And the main character's journey of having to confront his worst fears in the Haunted Mansion is a really cool idea that isn't executed badly. The problem is that I don't care about any of the other characters really, and they keep introducing new ones throughout the movie. So the main character gets less and less spotlight, you know, the one I actually like. But once he actually gets bound to the Haunted Mansion, the movie just halts and feels like it's going through the motions. Sure, they can leave technically whenever they want, but when they do, they'll be haunted by spirits for the rest of their lives until they break this curse. So they just spend most of their time in the Haunted Mansion because why would you leave? And it just gets boring. The movie almost made me fall asleep at 3 different points. It's not all bad though. For being a kids movie, the spooks and ghouls are actually decent. It's not actually scary, but for Disney, it's alright. The design and aesthetic of the mansion and the rooms are all great. The editing in this movie is stellar as well, but overall is just whatever. I've never seen the Eddie Murphy one, but I'm just gonna assume it's a 10 out of 10. So in that case, this movie was a disappointment. Ruined my week. You know what we're gonna need? Bigger boat? No. We're gonna need Jason Statham. The Meg is like Ant-Man Quantumania, where it's a movie that just goes balls to the wall insanity. Unlike Ant-Man, however, I actually had a little fun with this movie. Just turn your brain off and watch the funny man wrestle with a funny shark 50 times his size and somehow win. There's also an octopus that shows up and does things. It's dealt with pretty quickly. I forgot everything the villain did because she's just that forgettable. The effects and CGI were fine for the most part. Sometimes it looked a little off, but I didn't expect Avatar levels of CGI anyway. Some of the characters I quite liked. Some of the kills that happened were creative when it wasn't an off-screen death. My favorite shot in the movie is easily this POV shot from inside the Megalodon's mouth, and you see people screaming while being swallowed inside alive. It's actually kind of creepy. Besides that, just a fairly whatever movie that was overall boring if it wasn't focused on Jason Statham versus shark action. But if you are a fan of creature features like this, then I'd say check it out. I actually watched through all of the Transformers movies earlier this year, and you know what? The original trilogy is actually pretty good. Would recommend. The other movies, not so much, but hey, they can't all be winners. And that's exactly where my thoughts landed when watching this new one. It's not horrible, far from it, but I just felt like I wanted more out of this movie. The Autobots themselves are still pretty fun to follow, same with the rest of the movie. But the human characters were so boring! All three of the originals brought have been sucked out of these newer ones like a vampire. Even during action scenes, you'll just be sitting there like, yep, I'm sure watching a movie right now. Storyline and Autobots is what saves it. Well, okay, mostly Optimus Prime. But still, I'm not gonna crap on the CGI though. That's still some high quality stuff. Overall, just still an alright movie, but it could be a whole lot better and improved if you just removed the humans and just made it about the Autobots and Maximals defending the Earth. Just would have been a better movie. I had no expectations going into this movie. I only even really watched it because I was like, screw it, why not? And I came out, frankly, surprised by Illumination. I don't really like their movies. They've only made like 2 good ones before this movie, and everything else they made me feel like I was doing open heart surgery awake. But this one was actually an enjoyable watch. Again, it's not anything groundbreaking. You know, it's just a decent animated kids movie. But there were some things I did enjoy, like the dynamic of the family and their relationships. They did a good job making them likable. Like, even if you didn't like one of them, you'd want everyone in the family to be happy, so you root for everyone to get a happy ending. Sure, the humor is very, well, for kids, and the story feels like it halts sometimes to introduce us to new characters. But if you're a virgin parent who wants to take their kids to go see a movie while also wanting to enjoy yourself, I recommend this one. I saw so many people crapping on this film, and I too thought it was going to be a cynical cash grab based off a popular franchise. But afterwards, I was very surprised at how much I didn't hate this movie. I may have never watched the original Willy Wonka, only the Johnny Depp one, but those two both clearly go for a darker tone, while this one is very lighthearted in comparison. That's not a bad thing. Sure, I didn't really expect a Willy Wonka film to be a lighthearted musical, but what it tries to do, it does fairly well. The way Willy Boy himself is portrayed reflects this. While Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka is a lot more sarcastic and cynical, Timothée Chalamet's is more upbeat and quirky. Again, not a bad thing. It's just a new take on the character. If I had any complaints, it's that this one doesn't give off that sense of wonder and whimsy that the others do. Probably because a lot of the movie doesn't take place anywhere magical. Boring city, boring zoo. The only times it felt magical is when he first opens his little chocolate shack and the Chocolate Cartel's little hideout. A lot of the characters are decent, but I really fail to connect with any of their problems. Like, I don't care about your mother, I just want to see the candy. That's the part it fails to deliver on the most. All the interesting concepts from the original are not here. Or at least it's not as prevalent, which really bogs it down. The pacing as well was just, well, wonky. Especially the very, very quick wrap-up, where you feel like you missed something. But no, it's just over now. And thankfully too, because you can feel the movie's runtime sinking in by the third act. Besides some memorable moments and some decent songs, you'll probably not remember much about Wonka afterwards. But again, not a bad movie. I'll just probably never revisit it ever again. Also, I really didn't like it when Willy Wonka started dancing with a child. Gave me some strange vibes.
Bad touch, stranger danger.
This movie has a good opening and an amazing end, and absolutely nothing in the middle. Napoleon was just an Apple original film that they decided to put in theaters. I saw it and I was expecting maybe an action epic or an exploration of Napoleon's life, but apparently I got none of those. Don't get me wrong, there was some good battle scenes which ultimately saved the movie for me, but a lot of it is just more about his life drama and his interactions with other world leaders. And then the middle part where he leaves France, where nothing happens. I don't know if it was historically accurate, but I would honestly prefer it to be inaccurate and have just aliens show up, because at least that's something. And apparently a lot of it is already historically inaccurate, so who cares? I like Joaquin Phoenix as Napoleon. He did a fantastic job as usual. And the rest of the actors were all decent at worst. Pacing is another big issue, because Napoleon would leave to go to Egypt, come right back to his home to see if his wife is unfaithful, then right back out to lead his army, then right back in.
Alright, I get it!
Overall, besides the good action and the Phoenix, just stream it on Apple TV Plus. This movie is about stock. Sounds really boring, but it's really not. This movie is about when hedge funds on Wall Street betted that GameStop stock would drop during 2020 and 2021, and how one guy named Keith expressed his opinions online about how we should buy GameStop stock. It's actually an interesting story. I just wish they focused on it more. They show us a lot of different characters who are all supposed to be people who followed Keith's word and bought GameStop stock. The problem comes when you realize that there's so many characters that we follow bits and pieces of that it makes the main story we should be following also feel like just bits and pieces. I mean, it is cool to see the effects of the situation, but I sort of just have rather seen a lot more of Keith Gill. Especially since Paul Dano's performance is just great. It just feels like they cut a portion of the movie out. Like they planned things to happen but cut it for time, which sucks. But I still enjoyed it. It's definitely useful for learning what went down. I barely knew anything about the GameStop situation going in, but going out, I definitely was more enlightened. But if you're looking for like more of an ultimate meaning, it's not really there. But an interesting telling on a modern event with good acting and pretty funny jokes, I'd say give it a watch. Am I about to say that the animated Adam Sandler Lizard movie on Netflix is better than the theatrical Pixar movie? Yes. Yes, I am. Listen, I'm of the opinion that Adam Sandler is a great actor. He's just in a lot of bad movies. This is not that though. Well, I assumed it was. But it was surprisingly decent, and I didn't want to stop watching it when it was over. Adam Sandler plays a lizard that's been the school pet for a long time. So long, in fact, that he suffers from the worst condition possible: crippling old age. He fears that he may die soon, so he decides to bless the current group of kids with his 70 years of wisdom, helping them with what bothers them. If I really had to describe it, it would be wholesome. The plot is so simple, but it just works. The characters are endearing, from the kids to the kids' parents, to his friend Squirtle, to this random drone who had way more character to it than it had any right having. The supposed villain, who's the stereotypical mean substitute teacher, was also great, because she's just another person with problems that takes Leo for help. She only does something bad when she gets the credit for making the class better because it's the first time she was ever recognized. So she abandoned Leo in the jungle so she can take all the credit. Obviously a bad deed, but you can kind of understand where she's coming from. And she does eventually help the kids get Leo back. It wouldn't be an Adam Sandler movie though without some questionable decisions. Like the fact that it's a musical, but the music segments last like a minute or even like 30 seconds, and it's not very good. Along with the scene where the kids realize that Leo is talking to everyone and not just them, so they aren't special, and the liar is revealed and blah blah blah, yeah. This is giving me hardcore A Bug's Life lie reveal scene, and I don't like it. But besides this, it's pretty entertaining. If you're bored or have kids and you want to watch a good movie, I'd highly recommend this one. Good job, Adam Sandbag. Pleasantly surprised by Gran Turismo. I saw the trailer and thought to myself, wow, that looks cool, but it probably sucks. And while it's really slow at first, and takes a while to get to anything really exciting, once they show Jan actually racing, then it gets really good. This is based on a true story, which is pretty cool, and I feel it tells the story pretty well. A gamer who, with his talent at video games, becomes something greater. See, gamers can make a difference! And they use this story to make a very exhilarating and exciting movie. You're on the edge of your seat while you're rooting for Jan, because you want him to achieve his dream. So when the kind of predictable outcome happens, you're happy for him. They use the video game aspects in the movie seamlessly. It never comes off as cringe like it very easily can. Like, Jan doesn't randomly say in the middle of his race, "With the power of video games, I know I can win! Gamer Nation, rise!" All the actors do a great job, especially David Harbour. And honestly, just go watch it for yourself, it's really good. Swing your arms from side to side, come on, it's time to go do the Mario! I've already talked about the Mario movie on this channel, so I'll make it quick. Holy crap, the Mario movie is really good, and not as good as a lot of people might say. As an actual movie, it's not the greatest. It's got a lot of issues like fast pacing, it's confusing if you don't know anything about the source material, the licensed music. But for every detriment in this movie, there are 2 positives. And if you are a fan of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, you're going to absolutely enjoy this film. All the characters were great, even if some outshined others. The music and animation is stellar. The ending is sick as hell. I definitely liked it more on rewatch. But I still stand with a lot of what I said in my original review, so go watch that afterwards if you want a larger analysis. And General Koopa is still the best character in the movie. I never read the Nimona graphic novel, but I was excited to see Blue Sky's next film. Until it was swiftly canceled by Disney when they shut down Blue Sky. Thanks a lot, Disney! That is until Netflix picked it up for them to make, and surprisingly it was not canceled again, because we all know Netflix's reputation with things like that. And I really didn't have expectations till everyone started singing the praises of it, which got me excited, even if I still didn't really have any expectations. But Lord Jesus, was I surprised when I watched an actual amazing movie. Hell, so good in fact to where this made me think, was this an accident? No way Netflix made this, right? Right? Whatever. Let me just read you a list of reasons why you should put this movie on your radar. Gorgeous animation, amazing characters, a good message, good representation. Need I say more? Well, yes. The reason it's not higher is because I wasn't a big fan of the humor, some of the dialogue. The humor consists of fast talking and some lol XD humor that just doesn't click with me. The dialogue is sometimes a little cringe. I don't like using that word, but there's literally no other way to put it. Like when we were first introduced to Nimona, she zips around really fast and she says random edgy things. Sure, it fits her character and is sometimes funny, but I'm just not a fan of things like that. This, overall, doesn't affect what is still a great movie. It just hampered my experience a little bit. But watch it for yourself. Trust me, you will not regret it. Listen, Barbie is an amazing film that absolutely deserved the Best Picture nomination. But just personally, and I have to stress that, personally, with my taste, it really didn't hit the same like it definitely did with others. That doesn't mean I thought it was bad or even decent. No, objectively, it was probably one of the best movies this year. It's just such a creative film. It's hilarious and it has a lot to say. The reason it's not higher up is because of me. Barbie's message has to do with women. And to no surprise, me, being a 15-year-old teenage boy who's definitely not the target audience, a message like that wouldn't resonate with me that much. So I would consult someone with more experience for a review. But I do really like it, and I could praise other parts of the film. The costume and set design is amazing. In an era where every film uses so much CGI, it's really nice to see some actual set design. Casting is excellent. I can't see anyone else other than Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling playing Barbie and Ken. The humor is hilarious. It's definitely the funniest movie this year. Wasn't the biggest fan of the real world scenes. They dragged a little bit and Will Ferrell and the CO guys were funny, but not great. Along with Gloria and her daughter. They were great, but again, not my favorite. The music is excellent. It has Alan. Come on! Also, for those people who think the movie talks down to men, take it from a man like me. It didn't. It used the Kens to point out how isolated manhood in young men is bad, which I agree with. I could go on, but you should form your own opinion instead of listening to a review from someone who probably isn't qualified to review this movie, if I'm being honest. Amazing movie, but it failed to click with my demographic, so I didn't think it was as amazing to me as it really was. But I like Alan. I really enjoyed this movie more than I expected. I heard no one talking about it, but it sounded so interesting. Tetris is about how the creation of Tetris came to be. Not really. It's more about the guy who was responsible for getting Tetris on the Game Boy, which is how it came to be a sensation and one of the best-selling games of all time. You know, before the children labor simulator game was a thing. The actual creator, Alexei Pajitnov, is an essential player in the story. He's just not the lead, which you would think is a weird choice. Like, why not make the movie about the actual creator rather than a random entrepreneur? Well, that's because his story is just as, if not more interesting. My dude goes into the forbidden land of Soviet Russia just for the chance to get the rights from this other company who claims to have it, risking everything, including his family, just because he believes that it will succeed. And if it does, money, money, money! I love the energy all the actors bring. They did an excellent job. The atmosphere for each setting fits well. Like when Hank is in Soviet Russia, the atmosphere is just tense. It's awesome. And since I didn't know anything about the IRL story, I was genuinely on the edge of my seat wanting to know what happens next. It ain't perfect. It definitely has some pacing issues and can drag at some points. You might also find yourself replaying parts of the movie because of what they're talking about at some points. Since it's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo that unless you don't already have intimate knowledge of, you could easily be confused. Still a good biopic. How accurate is it? Well, if the actual guys say it's amazing, then I'm gonna believe them. I never thought I would put a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie this high up. I have never had interest in the TMNT franchise, like, ever. Even when my aunt and uncle invited me to go see this movie, I thought, is there really nothing else out right now? So I was skeptical. But boy was I wrong! This had no right being as good as it was. The only thing I thought I was really going to praise in this review was the animation, which is still greatly done. It was clearly inspired by Spider-Verse, which is always a good thing. Now though, I want to praise more things, like how much fun this movie is. It never feels like it's slowing down. The plot is always moving along, keeping the pacing at a great level. The action too is just awesome. The characters are all likable, and I was originally put off by the voices of the turtles since they sounded like young teens, which I guess makes sense, but I don't know, it put me off for a little bit. Luckily it grew on me though. Jackie Chan as Splinter, Ice Cube as the villain, it had Mr. Beast! Come on! The humor is my only big complaint because it is, oof. Some of the slapstick humor is okay. It's cool how it's kind of incorporated into the action. But all the modern references and the Turtle Brothers having iPhones, I just can't handle stuff like that. I don't know why. I will say, the reoccurring milking joke was really funny. But yeah, an unexpected banger, and I'm super excited for more. This is probably the worst John Wick film, meaning naturally it was one of the better films of the year. Out of all the quadrilogies that are out there, I think John Wick takes the cake as the best one. The worst thing I can say about this movie is that by the third act, you can feel the movie's nearly 3-hour runtime. The slowness of some scenes really make the movie feel like it goes on for longer than it actually does, especially when it's not focused on John Wick and his story. Some of the characters felt like pretty pointless introductions. Some of the dialogue was pretty corny, like everyone's words have to be big and dramatic. But like, that's it. Everything else is awesome. The action goes hard as it does in literally every other John Wick film. Most of the characters that I thought were worthy introductions, I absolutely loved, and that goes for the returning characters too. This is also probably the best shot and lit John Wick movie other than Parabellum. That whole top-down scene in the third act is probably one of my favorite sequences in the entire franchise. It's so good. By the way, did anyone else watch that scene and think to themselves how cool a John Wick video game would be? I'd play that. Now, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but let's just say I was not expecting it. But I am not mad with it. I think it fits John Wick as a character so well, and the foreshadowing goes crazy. So yeah, what a way to end the John Wick series. What do you mean they're making a fifth one? I hadn't seen a Mission Impossible movie before, and on the way to the movies, I just kept making Tom Cruise Scientology jokes. But after watching this movie, I found a new appreciation for the Mission Impossible series. The movie is just hella fun and jam-packed with amazing action and sequences. The story was unique and interesting, and the movie even does a good job in introducing these characters that have been around for a long time to newcomers such as me, to where I felt like I've been following them since the first movie. Sure, some of the writing is questionable, and the almost 3-hour runtime is a weird direction for a fast-paced action blockbuster like this. But luckily, something is always going on to keep the flow of the movie going. Yeah, not a whole lot more to say other than it's just a ridiculously fun movie. I highly recommend it. You have no idea how hyped this movie was. Into the Spider-Verse is probably one of my favorite movies, and definitely one of the best animated movies of all time. It started a renaissance to push what animated movies can be, and does the second one live up to the same standard as the first? Oh, hell yeah. While I definitely still prefer the first one simply because it was a lot more focused, this one is still amazing. Animation-wise, it took what made the first one so iconic and turn that dial up by 11. It's such a beautiful looking movie. I had to sit and ponder to myself afterwards and just remind myself that this animation wasn't a gift from God himself. It was made by real people, really talented people. This is probably the best film ever made animation-wise. While everyone probably knows the animation is fantastic, the score is on par with how good it is. I can't tell you a specific one to go listen to right now. It's all good. Just go listen to the whole thing. The two villains are great. Miguel is someone who you think is a good guy until Miles realizes his ideologies and way of keeping peace are kinda screwed up. That scene too, all around, is intense. When Miles says that his dad's about to become captain after they tell him that Spider-Man has to lose someone like that in his life. Ooh, just damn. The Spot dude is such a good villain. He's first introduced as a joke. Miles, the people around him, and the audience don't find him intimidating at all. He can't even fight properly. We are conditioned to underestimate him because as the film goes on, he becomes more and more powerful and a lot more intimidating to where everyone's actions are to counter his plans. He basically tells Miles to his face he's gonna kill his family. Like, bro! It's not perfect. The lack of conclusion is a little annoying. Some of the jokes were funny, but some of the jokes were just okay, you're fast paced, and you can easily miss it. Same goes for some of the dialogue. But I'm putting money on the fact that this trilogy will become timeless. It's incredible. I'm so excited for the third installment, Beyond the Spider-Verse. It's gonna be great. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the top 5. 5 movies that I feel are some of my favorites of the entire year. You might disagree, well, actually, I know you're gonna disagree with me, but let's just start now because this video is getting too long. I did not expect to love this film as much as I did. We have been so conditioned to expect grand epics, world-changing blockbusters, or movies with something to say. Now, don't get me wrong, those kind of movies can be fun or absolutely amazing, but this is simply just a nice slice-of-life film that's also able to give off such emotion and feelings that I've never really felt before. The relationships between these characters feel genuine. Paul Giamatti chewed not only his scenes, but the entire movie. He absolutely deserved his Best Leading Actor nomination. If I had to describe the characters, it would be one word: human. The characters have flaws. They've experienced trauma and sadness, but through being forced to stay in this prep school over Christmas, all of them feeling alone in life, they grow to find joy in being with each other. It's just so wholesome, man. The only complaint I do have is that the other teenage boys are okay characters, and they wrote them out of the movie pretty conveniently. Like one of them just so happened to have a father with a helicopter who could pick them up. Okay. I adore the way the movie looks too. It was shot to look like it was being projected on an old film projector, even if it was filmed digitally. It had the vibes of an old classic Christmas movie from the 1970s, and it was just, wow. I'll be watching this every Christmas from now on. It's just such an easy movie to love. I'm gonna upset people with this one, but here it goes. Do I genuinely believe that the Five Nights at Freddy's movie was one of the best movies of the year? No, of course not. I'm not that much of a fan. Realistically, it's probably around the bottom 20, and as a fan of the franchise, I can recognize that. I can tell you, yeah, this movie is not good, but I can still explain to you why I love it so much, which is what I'm gonna do. FNAF has been a part of my life for over a decade and made me into the person I am today. This channel would not exist today if it wasn't for FNAF giving me the inspiration to keep going. When I heard the story of Scott and how he went from a poor clerk at a Dollar Tree to a multi-millionaire, Kid Me saw that and said, that's cool. I wonder if that could be me someday. And while I ain't there yet, it's not like he found success immediately. It's also just a fun franchise to follow. It's ups and it's downs. When I walked out of that theater, just having the time of my life with this movie, along with everyone else in that theater who was in probably the same position as me, I almost cried. A little pathetic, maybe, but that's just how I feel. I would not recommend this to you if you didn't like this franchise, but maybe at the very least, you can have a little fun with it. I have a 30-minute review of it on my channel if you want an actual review, but right now, I'm just here to justify why I ranked it so high. If I was going purely on nostalgia, it may even be higher, but that's just unrealistic. And I don't want to say this movie is perfect, because I want the sequel to be even better. Whew. Now let's move on to movies I care less about than Five Nights at Freddy's, but are better than Five Nights at Freddy's. I knew this movie would be good. I mean, it was directed by Christopher Nolan. That should have been the first sign. But dang! After watching it though, I could definitely see people not liking it. It's very dialogue heavy, and it's very slow paced with its scenes, but everything this movie depicts is absolutely breathtaking. The cinematography and editing make you feel like you're watching history unfold right in front of you. Everyone's performances are excellent. I don't feel like I'm watching Cillian Murphy. I feel like I'm watching Oppenheimer. But I'm sure a lot of you know this movie is great already. I mean, it swept the podium at the Oscars. The sound design is amazing. The scene where they explode the first atomic bomb, I was expecting a big bombastic explosion, but no, it's silence. No sound can do this piece of history justice, and that's amazing. I mean, the audio mixing with the dialogue can easily make you miss something, and one problem is that just a lot is going on, so unless you have intimate knowledge of the events, something could easily fly over your head and you'd be confused. It definitely happened to me at a couple points. That's really it for complaints though. I also love how the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki wasn't the end of the movie. There was still an hour left to explore the ripple effects and the damage it did to Oppenheimer, how guilty he felt for being responsible for the deaths of over 100,000 people. The ending line where we witness the conversation Oppenheimer and Einstein had near the beginning of the movie, where Oppenheimer asked if he remembered the theory that if they set the bomb off, it could cause a chain reaction that could destroy the world. Originally, they thought it would just keep exploding, or it would be powerful enough to literally destroy the world. Oppenheimer says that they were right, but not in that sense. They did start a chain of events, but it would lead to these nations destroying each other with more powerful bombs. I left that theater still thinking about that one line. I haven't heard quotes like this since Nolan's Batman films. This was an amazing movie, exploring the consequences of the guy who created the first ever apology video. But there's a different movie set around this time period that I believe to be even better. Oh my god, man! Godzilla Minus One is so good! Like, I haven't seen a Godzilla film get universal praise from both audience and critics in a long time. Hell, this was the movie responsible for Godzilla's first ever nomination at the Oscars. Isn't that crazy? Granted, it deserved way more than just a special effects nomination, but as we all know, the Oscars are run by a bunch of Neanderthals, so who cares? Godzilla Minus One takes Godzilla back to his roots. No longer is he a heroic titan like in the MonsterVerse movies. He's back to being, well, a monster. Usually in these movies, you'd be rooting for Godzilla. You like seeing him tear things up. But here, you're scared of his presence. His quaking stomps and very loud, intimidating roar are almost villainous in a way. You cheer for his death at the end because you love these characters. Speaking of which, I love the MonsterVerse movies. Don't get me wrong. But one thing I always wanted from them was just better human characters and not filler just to space out the monster action. Here, you come out loving the human scenes almost more than the scenes with Godzilla. The main character, Koichi, God I hope I said that right, is such a compelling protagonist to follow. Being a kamikaze pilot who got too scared to die for the sake of the war, he now suffers from survivor's guilt, something I've never really seen portrayed a whole lot in movies. By the end, I had no idea if he would sacrifice himself or not. It genuinely put me at the edge of my seat, and I'm not going to spoil it here. All the other characters are memorable too. I love the boat captain, the younger guy who never went to war, and the scientist. I don't really remember a whole lot of names since I can't speak Japanese since your boy here is white as it gets. But I can assure you, I remember just about all of them. They were just likable. God, and the score. Dude. When the original theme from the original King Kong vs. Godzilla started playing, chills. actual chills. I loved it. I'm not gonna play it here due to Toho being infamous for copyright, but you can picture it in your head. In my opinion, Godzilla has the best theme song in movie history, and you cannot convince me otherwise. I'm not gonna say much more since I want you to watch it for yourself, but if you or someone else ever wants to start getting into Godzilla, or meet someone who thinks it's just a bunch of kiddie movies or big blockbusters, show them this movie. It totally crapped on every single American film to come out this year on a budget of only $15 million. That's insane! Easily one of my favorite movies of all time, and reminded a lot of people of just how great Godzilla is, which really makes me happy as a longtime Godzilla fan. While I'm still debating this question in my head, and maybe tomorrow I'll have a different opinion, right now, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is probably my favorite movie of 2023. Hell, one of my favorite movies ever! As we all know, Marvel has been on a losing streak ever since the Infinity Saga came to a close, and it doesn't look like it will be picking up anytime soon. And right now, I'm just done with Marvel. But there was just one movie I was looking forward to, and I was super scared it was going to be bad. But I'm so happy that James Gunn was able to pull it off and give us one of the best MCU movies, and one of the best superhero movies just ever. This movie balances everything correctly. It was hilarious, action-packed, fun, and utterly emotional. Rocket was easily the star of this film. His backstory was depressing as all hell and traumatic. I'm not going to tell you which scene, but there was one very, very emotional scene near the end of the second act that was responsible for the first time I ever sobbed in the theater. There were a lot of napkins used as tissues that day. Like, it was genuinely heartbreaking. I also love how evil the villain is. The High Evolutionary is such a sadistic asshole who has no problem killing an entire planet's worth of people and abusing animals. Just like Godzilla Minus One and its showcasing of survivor's guilt, I've never really seen animal abuse tackled in a movie, and just like the characters, it was really hard to watch. This is a Disney movie! How is it a Disney movie? This is a borderline R-rated movie. It even had the first ever F-bomb in the FCU. I like how it isn't even for a dramatic scene. It was literally just for a joke, and a really funny one at that. The last scene is a perfect send-off for these characters. It was a good ride, and I'm gonna miss them, but I think it's time to wrap their story up and see them fly away with a bang into the forever and beautiful sky. Wow, what a year. This year had a lot of good and a lot of bad, and that's really all I have to say about that, just like last year. But, man, Disney, what are you doing? It's ironic that the company's 100th-year anniversary is one of their lowest. Bomb after bomb, bad movie after bad movie. If you look at my list, you'll see a trend. Sure, they have that one banger with Guardians 3, but a lot of the movies just sucked. There could be many reasons for this, and sadly because of the slogfest from their output this year, I will be going into every one of their new movies skeptical. Hopefully I'll be proven wrong, but who knows. This video has been hard to make, but I hope it was worth it for you and you enjoyed it. If you are still here, make sure to like and subscribe, watch some of my other videos, and please do us all a favor and watch Godzilla Minus One. Have a good day. Hey, so this video was meant to come out in like February, and now it's April, and I apologize for that. Combine a lot of things like me being in school still, getting sick a couple times, and basically just being a lazy, ass. So combine all that and it's gonna take a long time. I apologize for that. I'd like to promise this is never gonna happen again, but I doubt it. I'm sure it's gonna happen a couple more times, and I apologize, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, but just thank you so much for, all the stuff. I know like I'm not that popular yet, but I'm just really doing it for fun, and so far some people are enjoying it, so that makes me happy. And yeah, it's really it. I'm gonna do a little bit more of a mixed kind of content. I know usually I just do movies, which I will still be doing because I love movies. But next video I'm gonna be tackling maybe a video game. You'll never know. You'll see. So just thank you so much for everything, and Let's try to make this year even better. See ya.